Chapter 20. New Identity. Nana said to the host, "Now, journeys have lots of bumps on the way. We experience lots of turbulence when we go higher for the Lord. However, most do not tell you that while the devil's way seems smoother, the acceptance of who you are is compromised." "Are you talking about identity?" the host asked. "Yes, and the labels that we agree with that make our identity acceptable." Nana asked, "Have you heard the commercials for medicines and how they begin with questions of, 'Do you experience this, or are you having trouble with that?'" "Yes, and I hate to admit this, but I will answer yes and no," the host answered sheepishly. "Exactly," Nana acknowledged and continued. "Those are labels we are coming into agreement with. Often we do this without even thinking about it. However, those spirits are around and ready to attach to the agreement. I used to wake up daily and complain about how I felt. I was tired and hurting, and it seemed as if I never got any better. No matter how many pills I took, the feeling was still there. When I began fasting and praying, I realized those demonic strongholds I had brought on myself. I agreed with the sickness I was putting upon my body. I remember always researching the new disease the doctor had told me about. I was obsessed with knowing more about what was in me and so blind to the fact that I was deeply rooting this sickness and giving it authority. I would then either solidify the contract with a medicine or or surgery. We all do this. We give man authority over our bodies, and then buy the products to keep the demons thriving and multiplying. Pharmacy in Greek means magic, charm, and potion. This is exactly what has happened to our nation. We have been charmed into the big lie that man has the authority and the cures for our bodies, when it is God who created them. He gave us all we need in the first 5 days of creation, and he said it is good. Teaching the truth is what is needed to release the demonic stronghold that is upon the women of this nation. I talk to women all the time who are on depression medicines and feel like they are stuck on them for life, but Jesus died for addiction, as well as healing. The problem is, we have too much knowledge of man's lies and not enough truth of God's word. Take the insurance companies. We do not need them in our lives if we let Jesus be our physician. He heals. He delivers. Doctors and pharmaceutical companies cannot do that. No, they cause more damage and addictions. They have partnered with the so-called food industries and peddled their garbage as a good diet. This is the cycle of man's life. We are born in a hospital, and we die in hospitals or hospices. Sick the whole time in between, and many think this is normal. They have us convinced life expectancy is better now than before. However, God gives us 120 years, and many do not know that truth. If we are given 120 years, then why are we settling for a good 70 years with sickness? Because we have given man authority over our bodies and think this is acceptable. So much normalization of it that we go to wellness checks and get our children vaccines because they have compromised bodies. God did not create us to get help for immune fighting. He gave us all we need to do that ourselves in real foods he provided for us. The crazy thing is, man has even outlawed many good foods and other naturally growing plants because they heal. God does not work in a laboratory creating pills for healing. Heck no, he is the healing. We had moved to Germany in a time of sickness for me. I needed my new pill to keep from having hemiplegic migraines, which I never knew I had. The toxic level in my body was so out of control, I was gaining an average of 1 pound a week. I was aching all over, especially old broken bones that were not healed properly. We had marble stairs that went up to our bedroom, and every morning, I would have to unstiffen my foot to walk down them because of the pain. It was ridiculous. I let the devil have that much authority in my life. Looking back, I almost laugh at what I endured to avoid God. I deserved the punishment because of my ignorance and my lack of faith in what God had provided for me on this earth. I had done all I could do as a person leaning into my understanding. I was going to the doctor all the time and getting the same results. Here is a pill. Isn't that insanity? Expecting something different each time? I was tapped out, especially after taking the one pill that made me sick for 2 days. God revealed to me that the pill was not helping me. However, it was changing me. My illnesses, if you will, were not going anywhere but merely being covered up by the chemical changes the pill was doing to my body. Medicine tells the body what to do, not the illness. I had had enough and was done with the doctors and pills. I avoided a hysterectomy in my mid-20s. I was told I had endometriosis and way too much scar tissue, and I would have nothing but issues with my periods for the rest of my life. Man, that is the devil's timeline, the rest of your life. What a joke. I realized one day I was the only female left in my family, including my daughter, that had not had a hysterectomy. I have been going through menopause naturally as well. I am the only one left to teach my granddaughter about the natural ways of her cycle. But this is what the devil does. He deceives and steals our identity. After breaking the labels off of me, the identity of what God created in me started to come to fruition. It was not overnight and took lots of prayer and fasting. The layers started peeling away, and soon emerged a very confident woman that wanted to help other women find the daughter God created in them. So you fasted and prayed for who you are today? The host asked. Yes. It was a year of learning about fasting and praying and who I was becoming. God showed and taught me so much. I love fasting. It helps me with my relationship with my Father. It opens up communication. But that is another interview soon. I have so much on the whole experience and being of sober mind, Nana remarked. The host stated, we will schedule that interview soon. Please carry on. Nana continued. In Germany is where I began my journey. We cannot see the whole journey, but God can. When temptations came around, it was God that saved me from indulging. We all have to be tested to be upgraded in the kingdom. Think about the test Adam and Eve had. Once they failed the temptation, they were expelled from the garden. However, it did not mean forever. They had to show God they were truly His servants and not the devil's. Think about when we got our driver's license. Our parents did not just hand a car over to us and say drive. No, we had to prove we could be responsible drivers, and when we messed up, it was taken from us for a time until we earned it back. That is like our Father in heaven. He does not just hand us anything until we have proven we can be responsible. I remember asking for forgiveness for even how I handled money. If you recall, I knew nothing but secrets, and those financial debts were my secrets. God blessed me when I did His discipleship course on finances and had open communication with my husband. I had to admit I could not handle money and be reformed in what God wanted me to learn. Throwing out the worldly ways was not easy, but after a few tosses, I realized that living godly was the only life for me. I was sitting at my desk in Germany when I just began praying. I wanted to know what God was like. I was tired of being fat, sick, and broken. I was on my third marriage, and the way of the world was not what I desired. Never really was. However, it was just an easy road to cruise down. It made me feel gross and unloved. Love was not something I understood. God was about to light me on fire for love,